go wrong.
That in a funny way, I think early warning it represents an aspect of good faith, because what it means is we don't wait for it to go wrong. If we have knowledge of something, we tell the other side.
It's an informed discussion about mitigation of effects that you know are going to
we don't tee you up for a claim because we know that claim is going to
But then we just see the employers saying, oh, you didn't give an early warning and you didn't do this, and they
so then it reverses.
And therefore your claim's
then it reverses if you don't recognise it.
I'll give you my last example, which I didn't necessarily. Are you familiar with the prisoner's dilemma? It's an interesting thought experiment. It's this little story where you've got two prisoners got caught on a bank robbery. They're in two separate rooms. They get given, I think, effectively three options. If you snitch on the other guy, and he doesn't say a word, you will get scot-free, but he'll get 10 years. Yeah. If you both keep quiet, you'll only get 2 years. But if you both snitch on each other, you'll get 5 years, because we'll have the evidence. And the question is, okay, if you're one of those people, what decision do you do? Do you keep quiet or do you snitch? And in a funny way, the logical thing is to keep quiet, because then both of you are quiet, but you have to trust the other side. Most people will snitch, because that's kind of the safe course of action, and then you both end up with 5 years. Yeah. The answer is, and it's a question of trust, and the way they test it, they play it lots and lots of times. You can't just play it once. And they've done computers, and the way to win it is to effectively do what the other side has done. So if they snitch, you snitch, you try to keep quiet, but you start by keeping quiet. So you start from trust, and if the other side responds, that's what you do. And if they cheat on you, you cheat on them.
But now, because
then the employer will send the prison warden and says he snitched.
So but you don't know.
So in the contract, I think you start positively and you collaborate and you cooperate. Yeah. And if the employer takes advantage of you, you will stop doing it. And say, you know what? I'll be contractually difficult. But if the employer says, you know what, really thank you, I'll show you the saving, I've taken on board. Next time you will say, I'm happy collaborating because I know that's how we will respond.
All of this, certainly in my mind, points to this discussion, not just that last point, points to some sort of retrofitting of performance as an aspect of the interpretation of contract. And the reason I say that is usually, most systems, you'll say, okay, what did the parties intend at the time they made the contract? By adding the good faith, you're then saying, well, it may be that certain conducts viewed in a certain factual matrix may result in an interpretation of what we've agreed expressly there, meaning something different. Yeah. And that's a really difficult concept, and I don't think, I guess the Law Commission might have looked at this at some point back in the 2000s.
Have they ever looked at that?
Well, there was a case I took in the Court of Appeal actually years ago where there was a discussion about whether you can use performance as an aid to interpretation, and the three Lord Justices, one of them very eminent, she said, look, this would be a really interesting case to test, but we're not that far progressed.
But society or
I think in terms of jurisprudence, I think it's just really, and it goes back to this whole concept of, we are set up in England to look at, contractual relationships as essentially adversarial. I'm going to look after my interest, you're going to look after your interest.
Well, there's a lot of risk dumping.
Yeah. And you've got concepts such as caveat emptor. That's come through. It's a buyer beware. Look, it's your responsibility. If you don't check, it's your.
Yeah, if you don't check, I don't have to tell you.
So that's how we're set up, or jurisprudentially set up. The question is, how do you then walk that back? And that's, I think, the complexity.
But what you just described leads immediately to people underpricing jobs and then making a claims file immediately, doesn't it?
Correct. Or
potentially, or
not understanding, or not understanding what they are pricing because
they think they can get back in, which is again at the contractual stage the wrong.
Yeah, your point in terms of risk.
Point
to get back to the very core of good faith in a contract, you would have to understand the whole contract and say, well, hang on a minute, you placed. Let's just take something obvious. You've placed the weather risk on me, whereas I can't take the weather risk. That's for the employer, or the neutral event's there for the employer type thing. But immediately, it isn't good faith anymore.